Okay, I forgot to mention that yesterday I was in Panda Express in Morgan Hill, and there was a Filipina chick who caught my eye. She was with a guy. Maybe he was Filipino. Maybe they were just Asian, but they looked Filipino from the side view. And she was dressed in like a white dress that reminds me of like K-pop or something, which to me is very much associated with prostitution. So I thought to myself, hey, that person is like one of these shameless sex workers these days or something. And if I'm wrong about it, and you somehow get this message or something, this video, then I apologize. But it was part of the psyop, I assure you. They do things. There's a certain pattern that's been occurring recently that any scientist in his right mind would immediately identify as a pattern of behavior that reflects a psychological operation. And I'm sure most people by now, most adults over the age of 30 will say, are satisfied that these things that are occurring, these mass shootings and so on, for the most part, perhaps even across the board, are part of a psychological operation, a massive psychological operation that has to do with global social engineering. And they're taking advantage of the left-right paradigm in every group you can think of. Okay? It's just like in Rome. For those of you who have trouble wrapping your mind around it, in Rome, you had cults, you had guilds, you had corporations. The word corporation comes from Justinian I in Rome, around 500 AD. You had the military, you had senators, you had, different factions of the cults and mystery schools, and you had, criminals in the streets, groups of criminals, bands of thieves, gangs, if you will. And they would work together to social engineer and to make sure things go a certain way. That's why so many people showed up in the Colosseum. Okay, they were from these various groups, and they came together to create the greater racket. In fact, the Roman deities like Jupiter, who's Zeus's Roman equivalent, and Juno, who is Hera's Roman equivalent. And you had Minerva, who I believe is Athena's Roman equivalent. You had the Capitoline Triad and so on and so forth. They were deities that represented the kind of spirits in society, the spirits that represent collections of people. And cults were like collections of people. Cult, culture, and cultivation, right? The cultures, the subcultures, countercultures, what have you. And Zeus was said to be like the deity of the emperor, if you will, the cult of the emperor, the deity of the true emperor in Rome in terms of their pagan leadership, the guys who ultimately pulled the strings. So you had a bunch of people who were doing their thing to some degree, and then you had a certain social order that, kind of pinnacled with the main guys who were manipulating everyone and abusing everyone, who were like from the cult of Jupiter, Jupiter and Juno, Juju, which in West African is witchcraft, and they were familiar with this witchcraft. If you look up into Circe, you might be able to find, if you see the book Greek mythology, I forgot who it was by, but it has an introduction from Joseph Campbell. You see Circe is depicted as a black West African looking female. That's because that connects to that. As it connects to Babylon. Ham begot Cush, Cush begot Nimrod, Nimrod founded Babylon, and Bel, who is Zeus and Jupiter's Mesopotamian equivalent, Babylonian equivalent, what have you, was a deity in Babylon. And to make a long story short, this has been Western culture for really hundreds of years, if not thousands, where you have people behind the scenes controlling the various cultures and social engineering. In fact, if you look in the history of eugenics, it goes back to it's either called the 10 Tables of Rome or the 12 Tables of Rome, as well as Plato's Republic in Greece. And the Romans, went across Europe. They went as far as England, and they were there for hundreds of years. They were all over Europe. And so when we think about Western culture, as they say that they civilized the world, they're not talking about the Celts or the Huns or the Vikings, They're not talking about the Saxons per se, even, Anglo-Saxons or Normans or Teutons. What they're talking about more specifically is Greco-Roman culture. And when they went around Europe influencing them, you have a kind of club of Rome that exists to this day. In fact, one of the most powerful secret societies on this planet right now, in popular culture in terms of worldly power, is the Club of Rome. That's not a coincidence. And the word Rome is more scrambled, because they want more, more, more. And when you talk about the New World Order, if you do enough research, you'll come across the Romans talking about a New World Order. And incidentally, it also carries over into the New World, which was considered, America, what have you. It was like a new world to the West when they came here and colonized it. So it also has implications on an American order. However, I do think that some people think that's what it is and some people don't. But what it really boils down to is these people from these cults and this network of cults. And it's not just Freemasons, it's a bunch of guys in different frats, right? Frats, F-rats, right? And frats and brats, and Greek and greed, and Greek and geek. And it all comes together a certain way. And this is what's going on. If you connect the movie Scary Movie to The Purge, into Greek societies and fraternities, and you connect, 101 Dalmatians where they talk about Cruella de Vil, Cruella Devil, and you look that up, it says, yes, that was deliberate. You see that there's a pattern in Hollywood of them deliberately connecting to these things. There's cults, and they connect these movies together. Like The Tears of the Sun, which is about my tribe in Nigeria during the Nigerian Civil War. The Tears of the Sun, which goes back to the Sun Run. Okay? And there's a lot of connections there. And it goes back to Ra in Egypt. And Ra in Hebrew means evil, but Ra in Egypt meant the sun, which symbolized God. And his son Horus was a solar deity. Okay? And then you have the Osirian mysteries, where he's the son of Osiris. And you have Serapis, who is like the main version of the false image of Christ. It's Serapis. It connects to Dionysus and Zagreus. There's a lot of connections there. And as the story goes, the followers of Serapis were called the bishops of Christ. And the Christos means anointed. And really quickly here, let me just wrap this up by saying the word martial is marital scrambled as in marriage, and I, Christ, and the bridegroom. Okay. Spirit, spear, it, spar it, and spirit, spar and par, mind, body, soul, and spirit, sparring the spirit. Think about what it means to spar the spirit outdoors in truth and not in the Olympics, which is a pagan contest named after Mount Olympus, which is Zeus, and it's in the unnatural indoors. Instead of outdoor sparring with the true rules that bring out the true clash, it's this kind of privileged indoor sparring with homosexual overtones. And if you don't believe me, look into naked Greek wrestling, Roman wrestling, you'll see that I'm right. And Greco-Roman wrestling is a part of the Olympics. Oh, there's a lot of connections here, right? Mount Olympus, the Olympics, and even the Olymp, right? Which goes back to the scripture, which is a play on words for crips root, which goes back to limping and being crippled, okay? And the sea rest in peace. So they're being killed and crippled, which goes back to their rivals who are said to be the Bloods. So blood is being spilled, they're being killed and crippled. So where does the word crip come from? For those of you who are interested in that thing, it comes from the occult. And I would venture to say, though I don't know, I wasn't there, that it comes from white Jews and LGBT people with blacks who are token minorities working together with them, and they came up with this idea. And by having blacks included in the process, it made it seem more like it came from blacks in the streets like Raymond Washington and Tookie Williams and Batman and whoever else was said to be one of these original there, Jamel Barnes. Oh, this stuff is rather sad. So you might say, well, what does it have to do with the Crip root? Now, before there was a Crip gang, the word scripture was there, right? The Crip gang, doesn't predate the word scripture. So they kind of build on the wordplay, the wise versus the foolish builders. And the script also is C ripe, and the interchangeable vowels, vowel to L. So C ripe is a play on words for also C rape and C rope. And they talk about a gang bang, and it goes beyond one gang. It's every gang. Biker gangs, this gang, that gang. In the sense of the fraternity is a gang, a group of people can be seen as a gang lynching somebody. See rope, hanging out, hanging from a tree. The tree of what? The tree of knowledge, the tree of life. Papers made from a tree. Papyrus, Bible, from Biblos, meaning book. And also the lady of Biblos is Balat. The Bible is therefore by Bel, not by God. Who do you think throws their weight around and has their way? So I went way over time. I urge you to see my Proof I'm Christ playlist. It's done way better than this video at this time. Maybe they'll edit it to ruin it. I don't know. But at this point, I did a very great job. It's one of my favorite playlists that I've done. and they've edited my videos to try to play me out. They edited my look. I'm sure you've seen how they edited the way Tupac and Martin Luther King look and other celebrities over time, especially if you're my age and I'm 43 years old. Okay. Now, did I bring up the wordplay with the numbers? It was something like, the number was like, man, I forgot. The numbers there, it was like an address. It had to do with hoe. Okay. It was like, I don't know. I'll put in the comments if I remember. Okay, but it had to do with hoe. That's why I brought up the Panda Express thing. I don't remember if I put that in the, I don't remember if I put that there. But even the fact that I saw a Filipina there the day before in a way that's pronounced, okay, the way that got my attention, and then this comes out in the news the next day, is very significant. Okay, so real quickly, the word gang starts with the word gay. The word game starts with the word gay, in terms of the word, the sound. And the word game is mage scrambled, which goes back to the occult and witchcraft and Hollywood, and Steve Jobs being described as a wizard. There's a lot of connections here, and I'm sure you can see why I'm connecting it the way I am, because these are very, very significant connections. Tativ in ancient Egypt was being straightforward and honest through the use of the stick fighting, stick sparring, because long ago people used to fight to the death with sticks and stones. Like they say, sticks and stones will break my bones, right? And they evolved to fight with sticks, hand-to-hand combat. Now, logic would tell you a kid can kill you with stones. So what really got to the bottom of it was the stick fighting and the spears and the sharpened sticks. And that was for, hundreds of thousands of years, people evolved to fight that way. Okay? If not for tens of thousands of years. And that's where you get the spirit, to spear something, spirit, right? And to be straightforward and honest. As opposed to, pretending that Mike Tyson is this, is this, that, and the other thing. It's actually somebody who is good at transferable skills to sparring. I call them transferable, translatable, universal, communicable, and convertible skills from sparring. Spiritual skills. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name, Exodus 15:3. Now, I could connect a lot of other things to you, for you. And I have thousands of videos connecting these things. Thousands. I urge you to see my Proof I'm Christ playlist and also see Isaiah 30, especially verse 30 through end. Thank you.